We'd like to welcome everyone to the Hillcrest Emergency Preparedness Country Fair and let you know that we will be starting in about 2 minutes with Claudia Orgill. She's going to be talking about turning our food storage into a nutritional powerhouse.
Thank you so much. So my name is Claudia Orgill. I have a blog at healthypreparedness.blogspot.com. I focus a lot on alternative remedies. That's kind of one of my main strengths is what alternative remedies, no matter what kind of alternative remedies they may be, whether it's herbs or essential oils or even nutritional supplements, can we store, and how are those applicable to the health threats that will happen during a disaster situation? First of all, a real quick intro. I had Lyme disease for over 7.5 years, and it nearly took my life. It was very debilitating. It took me away from being the kind of mother that I wanted to be to my children while they were in their youngest years. It was a huge, long, trialsome time. During that time, I had to figure out what treatments actually worked, what alternative treatments I could give myself on a daily basis that would help kick out the pathogens and heal my body at the same time. Because the overload of pathogens that had happened in my body was so intense and extensive that a lot of damage had been done, and I had food sensitivities to just about everything. I ended up getting brain inflammation that would hit so often that I eventually knew that it would kill me, that my organs were shutting down, and it just was not pretty. Doctors, they just told me I had depression. Alternative doctors eventually, finally, 3 years into this journey, diagnosed me as having Lyme disease. And even then, once I started receiving IV therapy treatments out of state, I still realized I have to continually hit my body while I'm at home, away from those treatments. And it was during this 7.5-year journey that, first of all, I knew that I was dealing with this for a reason. I was supposed to find out about these remedies. I was supposed to be on this learning curve so I can share this information with others one day. In fact, one time I even saw myself standing in front of other people sharing information, but during this whole journey I didn't understand what that was or why that would be the case. What valuable information could I possibly have to share with other people? Well, at the end of my whole Lyme disease journey, after I had recovered using IV treatments and at-home treatments, I began researching the health threats that happen during a disaster situation. I just became genuinely interested on the topic and started researching several books, and that's when I realized, oh my goodness, health threats, infectious diseases are the main cause of death during a prolonged disaster. And if we recognize that, we realize that we have to understand, or we have to know what alternative remedies we could be and can be and should be storing in our homes so that we can use that to help effectively treat these infectious diseases that we more than likely will be running into. So some of the things that I learned was that during a disaster situation, there are a handful of main infectious diseases or other maladies that take place that cause death or very ill health during a disaster. The main cause of death is respiratory illnesses. The second one is diarrheal illnesses. The third one, interestingly enough, is constipation. Constipation kills people during a disaster, which I find so ridiculous. Seriously, let's not die from constipation during a disaster situation. Then also there are vector-borne illnesses. Those are insect-derived illnesses that take place during a disaster. And then there's also malnutrition. So these are all the main things that we want to keep in our mind. I ended up putting together a book called Beyond Wheat and Weeds. This book is packed with information. It's a over 450-page book that basically talks about, okay, out of all the hundreds and hundreds of remedies that I had used, which of those were most applicable to the infectious diseases that we more than likely will face during a disaster situation? What are they? How can they be used? What's information about it? Where can we get these items from? And most of these, I always, when I prayed about the list that was supposed to be in here, I always kept in mind, okay, how long do these last? How long do these remedies last for? And what's the best price that we can get these at so we can get as much of it in our home as possible? I also went through and listed the CDC's 21 most common infectious diseases that take place during a disaster. What are they? What are the symptoms? What causes them? Is it a virus, bacteria, parasite, fungus? What causes them? And then what's the conventional treatment method? Meaning, what would a doctor tell you to do, or what would they do? And then also, what's the alternative treatment method? So out of all the remedies that you might have stored, which of those could be used for that illness? After I went through the CDC's 21 most common infectious diseases, I realized there was more than that. That didn't even include the day-to-day illnesses that take place during a disaster situation. Things like strep throat or ear infections or fevers of any kind. And so I listed those as well. What are the symptoms? What causes them? What are the alternative and the conventional, and even some folk treatment methods that we could use? And then after I put that together, I realized, okay, there's a little bit more as well. There are things like concussions, high or low blood pressure. What about things like lice or labor and delivery? What do we do about those? So it's just basically a good place to go to should we, in a disaster situation, not have a doctor around, not have a hospital to get to, and not have the internet to access information from. This is what that book was all about. So one of the main things that we can do is store food and understand what we have in our food storage, even already right now. There are a handful of treasures that I feel like are really important to understand and know about once it comes to how we view our food storage, because I'll just list a few of those treasures. Some of those are sprouting our grains. By sprouting our grains, we increase the nutrition by up to 2,000%, and that in and of itself right there boosts our immune system and makes it so that we do not become ill as easily or as quickly, or we have the ability to overcome these illnesses more easily. Another one of those treasures is mixing grains. Mixing our grains gives us a broader spectrum of vitamins and nutrients, and by mixing those together, whether it's in a soup or grinding it up to make bread-like substances, or for things like porridges, that right there is a treasure. Another treasure is if we just step back and look at our grains, all our variety of grains, and realize that they are nutritionally comparable to fruits and vegetables, that right there just gives us a whole new perspective on what we've got in our food storage. So those are some treasures. I feel really strongly about just understanding what we can do, whether it's something like sprouting our grains or mixing our grains, that just will help us to be able to better overcome or just completely not get ill at all from the illnesses that are coming during a disaster situation. Once it comes to alternative remedies and tools that I teach about, some of the hardest hitting ones that I feel really strongly about are things like bentonite clay. This is bentonite clay in its gel form. I have a video on my blog and YouTube channel where I talk all about bentonite clay, how it can be used, where you can get it in the 6-pound form for like $30, but also where you can get it in big bags, 50-pound bags for $8. Okay, so that's on my blog. But bentonite clay can be used to detox. I think radiation exposure, even things like food poisoning, burns. It is amazing for burns when you apply it as a gel, or even wounds of any kind, infections. Once it comes to wounds, I always teach about 3 main things: herbal poultices, bentonite clay, and then activated charcoal, which I don't have up here. But wounds are a major issue that we need to think about, whether it's a tiny wound, which, by the way, tiny wounds can kill a grown man, or whether it's a large open wound that can't be stitched up. How do you go about healing that? What do you do for that? Those 3 simple remedies right there, bentonite clay, activated charcoal, a simple herbal poultice, those are things that we want to have in our home and that we want to understand. The herbal poultices, I'll be creating a video about that in the next couple weeks here. So some other remedies would be lipospheric vitamin C. It's just, what are the big guns, so to speak, that we can store that will be truly effective and have a big impact on these illnesses that we'll be facing. Lipo-C is one of them. Essential oils are definitely a must-have. There are 8 specific essential oils that I feel like are most applicable for the health threats that will happen during disaster. A digestive blend is a great one, because we'll be dealing with all kinds of issues stemming from acid reflux to stomach cramping to nausea to diarrhea to constipation, and a digestive blend is great for that, whether you're putting it on the bottom of your feet or taking it internally. Some other essential oils would be a breathe blend. You know, and a lot of these different companies sell their own breathe blends and digestive blends. There's lots of great companies, especially here in Utah. We have a lot of great MLM companies that have really high quality oils. But there are other oils outside of that that don't come from an MLM company that have great oils as well, like Nature's Fusions. That's one of my favorites. Butterfly Express is great as well. They're located out in Idaho. So a breathe blend is a great one for respiratory illnesses because during a disaster situation, what's one of the main causes of death during a disaster? It is the respiratory illnesses. It spreads very quickly. Children and the elderly are especially susceptible to that. Another thing, I'm going on a little tangent here, but is to have a nebulizer. There are nebulizers selling as low as $30 on Amazon. And it is an effective way to get medicine into the lungs to treat issues that are rising on a bronchial level, on a, it just gets medicine deep into the lower areas of the lungs. That's where pneumonia usually starts. And it also can be used as a preventative. So if there's respiratory illnesses going around, you can use this before it even hits. There's a small handful of remedies that can be used in a nebulizer safely, right? Because our lungs are made up of delicate, sensitive tissues. We don't just want to put anything in there. We don't want to put essential oils in there. Some people do put some in there, but I've heard of kids going into respiratory distress because they've had essential oils nebulized and given to them that way. So it's definitely the handful of remedies I'll talk about at the class later on. I have a class going on at noon, but I also will be posting that stuff on my blog and YouTube channel. Essential oils, I'll just go down the list. Oregano, great antibiotic. Tea tree oil, great antiviral. Lavender, amazing at soothing burns. Spray it on the skin. And it's also great for bug bites, insect bites. And let's see, what are some of the others? Oregano. I think I'm missing one. Maybe a couple. But I'll go over them at my booth. I have them all over there. Another great tool to have on hand is something as simple as a ketchup bottle, an empty ketchup bottle, 99 cents, to help irrigate and clean out large wounds. You can also use just like a Ziploc bag and cut off the tip. You want the pressure, right? That's what we're wanting. Because if we have large, ugly, deep wounds, there's little rocks in there, debris in there that will cause infection. If you've ever been to a doctor's office and you've seen them clean out a wound, they're very, very thorough. And we need to be thorough too. And if we have something as silly as a pitcher that we're trying to pour water on, first of all, we're wasting a lot of water. And second of all, there just isn't enough pressure to really irrigate that wound out very well. So something as simple as a ketchup bottle is a great idea. So herbs, there are some herbs that are absolutely amazing, and in my mind, they're absolute must-haves. Olive leaf is one of those. It can be used for any type of illness, whether it's something from a parasitic infection to viral to bacterial to fungal infections. It's an amazing herb to have. There's a book called Olive Leaf Extract written by Dr. Morton Walker, and it talks a lot about that. The reason why I feel so passionately about it is not only because I've had some great success using it, but because every time I talked about it at the free classes or seminars that I was doing in the very beginning when I first started teaching classes, I just felt a huge push from the spirit, from the heaven, whatever you want to call it, to just really make sure people know about this. And so you can get it from Mountain Rose Herbs. It's $18 for 2 pounds. I think that's about the right price. And it's just such a great item to have on hand. Yarrow is one of them. Cayenne is one of them. Oh, I wish I had more time to go over it some more here, but how do we use cayenne and what for? We can use this for shock, to drowning, to stopping bleeding internally, externally. I had a gal at one of my seminars tell me that she hemorrhaged after having a baby and she passed out because she hemorrhaged so badly. Well, the midwife came, gave her squirts of cayenne tincture in the mouth, rubbed it along her lower abdomen, her upper legs, and it stopped the bleeding almost immediately. That's kind of a really powerful herb to have on hand. Yarrow. If we have somebody who's really ill and they are not sweating, they more than likely will die. Yarrow is one of the best herbs to give in a tea form or tincture form to help make sure that they are sweating, so they sweat out that illness. There was one doctor's book who I read one time. It was called The Body Electric is the name of the book. And he said during the war, I don't remember what war it was, but during a war that he was involved in, they had a makeshift hospital, and they knew which patients were going to die based on whether they were sweating or not. So I think that's applicable to things that more than likely we'll be facing in the future. Yarrow is a great thing for that. There are other things that I have as well, things like silver, Other substances, I'll talk about it at the class. One other tool that I want to mention is an enema bag. It seems like an embarrassing item to have on hand, but it absolutely is not. There's a picture I have over at my booth, but what I always tell people is think of an IV bag and then think of an enema bag and see them as being the same thing. If you're in a disaster situation where somebody is severely dehydrated and their electrolytes are low and you cannot get an IV into their system, an enema bag is your next choice. What you will do is a retention enema. You will create your own electrolyte solution simply by using sugar, salt, and water, put it in the bag, insert the tip into the rectum, help them retain the fluid that's going into their system for 20 minutes. Do that a few times a day. And as they're retaining it, their body is absorbing that liquid and the electrolytes, and those go back up and they can recover from their illness. If they are dehydrated or their electrolyte levels are super low, they cannot recover. So I guess Walmart's selling them for $5 right now. So I don't know if they will be when everybody watches this video, but $5 for an enema bag, you just can't go wrong there. It's definitely worth it. So I think my time's up. Are we up on time? I have 5 more minutes. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So Moringa is, once it comes to food storage, I'm skipping around a lot, I'm sorry. Once it comes to food storage, Moringa Powder is a substance that I just think is so powerful once it comes to making sure that we have the nutrients that we need to help us get through a disaster situation, to help boost our immune system and help us to be able to not get ill as easily and overcome the illnesses more quickly. This comes from, it's the powder from the leaves from the moringa plant, and the moringa plant grows in third world countries. People are having remarkable success using it there simply by sprinkling it onto whatever food they're eating, and they just can see that they do not become ill as quickly, or they don't become ill at all, or they recover more quickly. It's just a matter of making sure we have the nutrients in our body that we're needing. So moringa is another little gem that I love. Do you guys have any questions before I head out of here? We have like 2 minutes. Yes? The olive leaf, just about anything, any type of illness, it's a good all-around. There's a list that I have over there. I'll show you. It's amazing. Dr. Morton Walker, he's the one who did all the research for it and just says what all it could be applicable towards. So, and then it's just an ancient, beautiful, in my mind, sacred plant. There's just something to that too that I really like about it. But yeah, medicinally, it's been proven scientifically to be quite effective, very effective for all kinds of issues. So you can make a tea with the olive leaf, or you can make a tincture. I do teach a hands-on seminar class monthly where you come all day. It goes from 9 a.m. until 3:30, and we do hands-on with all this stuff, including making tinctures, making herbal pills, making teas, clay paste, all that stuff. So that's something to take into consideration. But otherwise, in the meantime, I'm trying to get all this stuff up on my YouTube channel, my blog, just so people can have that information for free. So, yes?
What kind of medicine is inhaled from the nebulizer?
Okay, medicines in the nebulizer. The 2 main ones would be nano silver, or it would also be ASEA or ASEA-like solutions, or it would be tiny amounts of grapefruit seed extract, so 1 or 2 drops in water, or iodine, small amounts of iodine, 1 or 2 drops in water. Those are the 4 that I turn to most often for that. And all of those, they are in my book. Like this is what this is for. It's instructions on how to go about using the nebulizer, use those remedies, and just how to do it. So thank you for coming. I think my time's up. Thank you, I appreciate it. Oh, one more question.
So the sprouted grains, is it okay to buy them sprouted if you can find a place that sells them, or do you have to sprout them yourself?
If you buy the sprouts, so the question is, can you buy the grains sprouted already, or do you have to make them, or do you have to sprout them yourself? If you buy them already sprouted, they just won't last as long. You want to buy them in their full form, and just so you know, if you're using oxygen absorber packets in your grains, you're possibly rendering them unsproutable. So I use diatomaceous earth. I have a video up on my blog about that. You're just risking the chance of making it so they don't sprout by using oxygen packets. You don't want to buy them already sprouted. Just buy the grains as they are, the way they come from the ground, and then sprout them yourself, which that is so easy to do. It's so doable. So, and I'll have a video coming up about that too. So.
What do you suggest for sinuses?
For sinuses, a nebulizer is great for sinuses. Silver solution, ASEA solution, and grapefruit seed extract. People who have chronic sinus issues, it's usually a fungal issue going on, and so grapefruit seed extract would be good for that. You know, people always wonder, how do I know which remedy I should use? We use our own knowledge, we use the resources that we have, and we get on our knees and pray about it. That's the main thing that we're going to have to rely on, is the Spirit and prayer once we're in these situations, so we know what will be most effective. So, okay, I've got to go. Somebody else has got to come up here. So thank you so much.